Just got off the phone with Auggie, another youth pastor down in Iowa, who also makes vlogs and puts them on YouTube, I think every week. If you want to check out Augie's vlog, he calls it the Aug vlog. I'm going to put a link in the description. You can go check that out, see what he's up to. His church context is completely different. He's like in a small town with like only 600 people total. So anyways, a different view on youth pastor life at age 40. So that was a really cool phone call conversation. In fact, I'm gonna let you guys check it out. Here you go. This is like a 30-minute conversation where we're gonna talk about things like how did I get started at making these videos every day, how I've grown, how I rest, and then I ask Auggie a bunch of questions about youth ministry and being successful in the long term and some different questions like that. Also gotta warn you, there's a bunch of glitches. Our internet kept cutting out, and so sorry about that. You're gonna get like the raw, unfiltered kind of deal. But hey, that's how life is. Sometimes your internet glitches and you gotta wait and stuff like that. So anyways, what you're gonna see on here is like, wow, Adam is not the greatest at asking questions in this interview conversation style. And it's true, but it is what it is. This is me, here you go.
So my question is what got you first starting in vlogging this year? Like you started to do a year in a life of, and what got you to do that?
I guess I've never actually vlogged before, but technically in my mind I hadn't, but I actually had, I had, as a youth pastor, I'm in the world of sometimes making videos and doing all this stuff. And so I did a couple crazy adventure type runs basically that I made videos of, and people are like, yeah, you're making vlogs. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess I am. I just didn't say I'm making a vlog. I just said I'm making a video of myself running up this mountain or whatever. Mm-hmm. So then I was on a walk or a run, one of the two, like in December probably. And so I was listening to this book that was talking about documenting as like a way to, I don't know, this is how people get started in something on social media. And I was like, it's kind of like what you do anyways on Facebook and Instagram and all these things. You're like documenting your life. But I like the concept of documenting on video better, like on YouTube versus here I posted all these random things on my story on Instagram. Because I had already done some like documenting of my family. Like literally the reason I first made a video was to film my kids. Right. It was like, oh, I want to have videos of my kids like when I'm old and when they're old and blah, blah, blah. That's like how I started to learn how to edit videos, is to make videos of my kids. And so I was like, well, I already make videos of my kids every now and then. I don't know. I just got the idea like, I'm going to document my life every day this year. And it's actually become a lot more complicated than it was the original idea. The original idea was like, yeah, I'll just do a 1-minute video at the end of each day saying what I did that day. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, well, that's going to be boring. If I was like, hey, everybody, this is what I did today. Then I wanted to actually show what I was doing, not just say, hey, I went to a meeting and then hung out with my kids. I wanted to actually show it. So I don't know. Then I just jumped in and it was like January 1st. I'm like, I'm going to do it.
That's awesome.
And so I started doing it. And then on like the third day, I realized, oh, shoot, this is a lot more work than I anticipated it was going to be. In my brain, I imagined, oh, it'll take 15 minutes a day and I'll make a video at the end of the day. It'll be all good. Well, then I'd get an idea for a video. And then I'm like, shoot, that just took me 2.5 hours to make instead of 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then others took even longer, depending on what the idea was. Like the first video that took me like a really long time was a video I made of Levi when he turned 10.
Oh yeah.
And so, because I was trying to pull all this footage from past years. And so it just takes time to collect all that. And all of a sudden it's like 2 a.m. I'm trying to edit this video and I'm like,
yeah.
But when I thought, if there's anything worth spending time on, it's like this video of my kid, good for him to look back on or me to look back on 10 years from now. I'm going to be like, I'm glad I have that video. Yeah. Like some of these I may not care about in 10 years. It'll be like, oh, that was whatever.
Yeah.
What I did that day. But some of those I'm going to be like, I want to have that in 10 years that I can go, hey, remember when you were 10, dude? When he's graduating high school or turning 20. And so I was like, whatever, I'll sacrifice a few hours of sleep to make a cool video of my kids. So
that's awesome.
I don't know if that totally answered the question.
No, yeah, that's
more
awesome.
than you wanted.
No, you're good. You're good. That's awesome.
You've been a youth pastor for a while now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long you been doing this thing?
On and off again. I've been doing this on and off again for 7 years over the past 10 years.
Okay, so you're not a rookie anymore.
No, I hope not.
And you're getting old like me.
Yes, we're both 40 now.
The weird thing about being 40 is I always thought like 40 is old.
Right.
Right. Like when you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, Dad, you're 40, you're old.
Yeah, you're an old man.
And now I'm like, shoot, I don't feel that old, you know?
Yeah. I feel pretty spry. Yeah.
Anyway, so being not a rookie youth pastor, being a 40-year-old youth pastor, what advice would you give to somebody who's like new in youth ministry, doing it 5 years or less, maybe?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good to be learned. I think the first thing is really to learn, either by finding books or finding a mentor, and just ask questions. I have a couple guys I still ask questions of them, like, hey, you've done this for 20 years. How do you do this? And accept the responses like, maybe I won't be able to do that, but I can figure out a way that I can do that. So,
yeah.
And I read, like, this year, my goal has been to read a book a week. I'm a little behind. I'm 2 books behind, but next week at camp, I'll be able to read the 2 books I need to read. But I think there's a lot to learn from that. Even if you don't, like, some of the books are fiction, but I'm still able to take away concepts from that I can use later. So, like, it's really to realize that you get out of college and you're a seminary graduate and you're like, what do I do now? Learn.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you, because like learning, they don't teach you how to call the cops in seminary, but sooner or later you have to call the cops. But seriously, like, they don't teach you.
They don't teach you that in the books either, though. How to call cops when there's an issue at your youth ministry.
Right. But it's something that you could, like, well, we're supposed to approach people with kindness and grace and God's compassion, and so without learning, more about that, then you're not going to be able to essentially be able to do that with grace. And sometimes you end up looking like an idiot, and I've done that before. But honestly, I think the big part is finding that mentor and reading, or at least learning or advancing yourself. Like, even TED Talks is a great way to advance yourself.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're more open to learning now than you were, like, when you started?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just as arrogant now, but I understand the fact of, like, I need other people's advice in order to be able to make a good decision. I think that's the big one. Like, when I was younger, it was just a bunch of pride and being like, I know everything, brah. And that's not the case.
Yeah. I feel like most people, their first 2 years of youth ministry, think they, like, know what they're doing better than everybody else. Yeah. I mean, I was the same way, probably. Like, oh, these guys are idiots. Why don't they do it my way?
Right.
And then you realize, oh, maybe I'm not the smartest person in the youth ministry world.
Yeah. Well, like, and I had a nice advantage because I went back to college at age 35.
Okay.
And I got my degree at age 39. So, or no, 38. But, like, the thing for me is that I got to be able to hang out with 19-year-olds and see what they thought.
Yeah.
And graduate with them when they're 21, 22-year-olds and learn how they've learned and see that progression. And they got to learn from me. They called me the old man in the room, but it was still something they got to learn from me. And we still contact each other. And it's one of those things where it's like, that was something I think God planned for them and for me, because I can see the mistakes that they're making and I'm making some of the same ones. And I'm like, well, so it's not a generational thing. It's actually just like a experience thing. So yeah. That's where it's really helped me a lot is realizing that, like, mentors are super helpful. Yeah.
So do you think mentors need to be, like, live and in person, or can they be like this, virtual?
In modern day times, honestly, as long as you can be completely honest on a screen, I mean, it could be like this, it could be a phone call, it can be a text. A lot of the mentors that I have, it's just a text away. Yeah. And I text them, and if they feel like they need to call me, then they'll call me. But most of the time, it's just like a text back, and it's like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's the hard part. Sometimes it does require a phone call, and sometimes it requires a face-to-face. Like about a month ago, I wanted to pick someone's brain because they've been doing ministry for 25 years, and they came into a place that they actually. I'm gonna wait for it to stop glitching. Okay, there we go. They came into a place just a few years ago, about 8 years ago. They came into a place where the person was super, super loved, and that's kind of the situation I came into. The person before me was super, super loved, and like, how did they do year two? Because year two is kind of where you want to start doing huge changes.
Yeah.
And so like that was the part that I was just asking him question after question after question. But since he was a mentor, like he knew that a text wasn't going to take it and a phone call wasn't going to take it. I actually had to go there and have lunch with him in order to be able to better serve the questions I had. So
sure, I hear you.
Okay, so you do a lot of extra stuff with the vlog. You spend a lot of extra time.
Yeah.
Most likely that takes time away from your rest. And we've been at DYM and have heard of Alan Falding. And so my question is, how do you rest now that you've added this extra stress to your life? Yeah.
Sleeping, number one.
Yeah.
For me, it's probably in general, my biggest way to rest is what some people would not consider restful. It's like going on a run or a bike ride.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on for me, a long bike ride or a long run. I'm not doing long runs right now because my ankle's still jacked up. But yeah, like that. Like some people are like, what is wrong with you? Like you're like, what? You like went running for hours, or went biking for hours? But I don't know. I guess it's not restful on my legs, but for my heart and my soul and all that kind of stuff. Making these videos doesn't really interfere with that as much. I mean, it can, but if I'm doing a long bike ride, it's during the day. And generally, I'm editing videos at night.
Right.
And then I've figured out how to like film and document as I go, kind of. I'm like on a bike ride, just doing clips, quick clips here and there or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I go on a motorcycle ride and people are like, that's not restful. I'm like, oh, you don't understand. It is.
Yeah.
I think God puts on our hearts different things that make our soul rest, Like my senior pastor here loves to watch wood burn. So he puts a fire and lets the wood burn, and that's his rest. It's like, that's the way you do it, man.
Yeah.
That's the way you do it.
That's hilarious. And a lot of people like watch Netflix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've like, for me, like, I mean, I'll watch stuff, but I've literally, since I started doing this daily videos, nothing. I like literally almost watch zero TV because by the time I get done making a video, I'm like falling asleep.
Yeah, I understand that.
So I'm like, well, this is probably more, I don't know. I'd rather do something productive than sit there and watch TV.
Right. I think that's ADHD too, because I have the same thing. Like,
really?
I don't like to sit and watch. I'm like, I got to keep doing something.
So it's like, yeah. Anyways. So like, if your thing is watching TV, I don't know if this would be good for you because it takes all that time. I don't know. At least for me, it takes all that time away.
Yeah. You just want people to watch your YouTube videos. That's what you want. Have them take all that time. Yeah. There you go.
What advice would you have for people who are like 40, who are like older youth pastors? Yeah. Have you learned anything that's like different now versus when you started, or of how you have to do it, or I don't, like, you're not 20 anymore.
I do. I am 200. We got to hang out with Walt Mueller, and I got a great question about culture and like keeping up with culture. And he says, you don't really have to do a lot. It's like you can look at the YouTube trending. You can kind of see what the kids are into in your group, but honestly, just talk to them and ask them about what they're doing. I think that's the biggest thing. As you get older, people tell you that, well, you're too old to do this now. Getting into youth ministry more at the age of 40, people are like, oh, well, when are you going to be a real pastor? And I'm like, I am one. I want to be that 7-year-old pastor with a walker going, let's go do the concert.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think part of it is for the older youth pastors is don't worry about culture so much and worry about relationships. I think so much is made about, like, especially at college, just coming out of college a couple years ago, I think there's so much made at college about knowing the culture. And I think that's I don't think that's the thing is it's not culture, it's relational.
Yeah.
I have relationships with students here who, if I would care about culture, they would not have a relationship with me.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm capable of taking a moment and just asking them how their day has been or how their week has been, or like right now, driver's ed is big in our small town in Iowa. So like, how's driver's ed going? I'm like, nobody died out here, so that's good, right? And so
Yeah.
it's just that relational thing. And I think as we get older, and maybe you've noticed this too, but as we get older, I think it's more relational than it is about culture and the next biggest trend and doing this or doing that. I think it's more about, you know, caring about either a leader. If you're that youth pastor that has more than 20 leaders, that's your ministry.
Yeah.
Not as much students, but as ministry. But it's taking that moment and being more relation. I just had a stroke. Sorry. I think it's more about being relational with your leaders and your students than it is about being culturally relevant. Because I dress like I'm still from the 90s. I'll be honest. And I have kids tell me, "Oh, that's so out of style." I'm like, "Yeah, one day it's going to be in style, and I've been ahead of the curve." Okay?
It'll come back. Yeah, it'll come back around.
So yeah, that's kind of my advice is just be more relational than you are caring about culture.
I think youth ministry is always about relationships.
Right.
Sometimes it just takes getting older to realize that.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you're older, you're like, dang it, I just can't be cool anymore, even if I try.
Right.
Like you could be in tune with culture and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it becomes more weird as you get older. Like, okay, like don't try to act like you're young. Mostly kids care about if you care about them, I think.
Yeah.
Rather than if you care about Justin Bieber. I don't know.
Right. It's who's the center of attention? Are they the center of the attention, or are you making yourself the center of attention?
Yeah.
And I think the older we get, the more we make them the center of attention, which is the relationship they want.
Yeah. Nice. That's good. Can I do a tag on to that question?
Yeah.
If somebody wants to be in youth ministry,
Someone wants to be in youth ministry. Got it.
like if you're going to do this when you're 40 and beyond, what advice would you give?
I think there's a lot of, and especially with the way culture is going, I think there's a lot of things that we have to have longevity. We have to really check our hearts on. And the first thing is we got to get our pride out of the way. That's the recommending thing. And understand that we're going to have people that keep us in check. You know, our wives are going to know when there's a girl that's too close to us. That we're not going to see it because we're relational. You know, at least I am. You know, and so we're not going to see it. So when a wife says, "Hey, watch out for this," you got to say, "Okay, you need to go talk to her." Or like, for example, I'll give an example of that. Like, so this last spring, I had a female who was in junior high that wouldn't stop pinching me in between when they would show up. And I was like, "Stop it. You really got to stop it." And she wouldn't stop touching me. Like, it was just one of those things. It's just one of those, she would, I don't know. She wanted to be slapped. I don't know. I didn't ever slap her. I honestly didn't. But it's one of those things where my wife got really, really, really enraged one day and told me, "You got to stop this and you got to make sure that you," and I'm like, "Listen, I've asked her twice and she's not stopped." And so my wife the next week went to her and said, "Don't touch my husband." And she's not touched me since.
Nice. Yeah.
So I think having people that keep us accountable like that, I think is valuable beyond our own value because they see things that we don't see.
Yeah.
Like, we get blinded by emotion or by the fact that they are giving us attention because whether you like it or not, us youth pastors sometimes like attention.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, more than that and all that longevity, I think really comes down to knowing Christ more. And if we're not taking time and reading our word more and really just kind of digging into what it means for stuff and just repeating the same 4 years of lessons, then we're up a creek and we're in trouble. And it's going to show really quickly. And for those people who do youth ministry for like a year and a half and get out, a lot of them kind of got out of that habit of learning more. And it was very apparent at the end of their ministry they hadn't learned anything since they got there.
Yeah.
And so I think longevity is learning more about Christ.
Sweet. That's good.
Yeah. I think maybe I'm a little arrogant on that. I don't know. Here's my last question for you. And I think it's a good question because I've grown a lot by my vlog. I actually went back and watched my first year and was like, I'm a terrible vlogger. But like, how have you grown since you started vlogging every day, just in life in general, or like in knowledge of video, or even just spending time with family? How have you grown?
I mean, I think the most obvious one is I think I've gotten faster at editing videos. When you're doing it every day and you're trying to do it fast, then you learn, if I do this, it's like way faster or whatever, you know. So that's kind of an obvious, I think. I've gotten more used to talking on camera.
Yes.
You know, it's funny because like talking in front of people is one of those things like, oh yeah, that's easy for me, pretty much. you know, like I still get nervous sometimes, but after 20 years, it's like, just, I don't know, whatever, just go do it. Whereas anyone who's new to going on stage in any context, they're getting all nervous. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to talk in front of people. After like 50 times, some of that nervousness goes away.
Right.
The same on video. Like after like 50 videos, you start to get more like, okay.
Yeah.
It's not as awkward to randomly talk to the camera or talk to my phone or,
right.
You know, I still have like the when everyone's looking at you weird thing where it's like, makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could just be like all out on camera when it's just me and my camera.
Right.
This is not really video related, but it's almost like I've grown in the area of like planning out my life better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to look ahead. You know, after like 5 days, it was like, oh, that was fun. Now, wait, I don't want yesterday's video to be exactly the same as today's video.
Right.
I had to begin to think ahead, like, what am I doing tomorrow, and what am I going to film, and what am I not going to film, and all that. To where like looking ahead, like knowing what I'm doing. I mean, that's a normal life skill,
right?
It's almost like a different angle. Like, how is this going to work with documenting my life? And it's like, shoot, I'm in meetings all day. That's not going to make a very exciting video.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm like in a meeting trying to film people, and they're like, "Stop it! What are you doing?"
Yeah, yeah.
You know, my whole thing is like documenting my life. But then you'll notice some days there's no documentation of my life. It's like, oh, hey, I'm going to give a random my 2 cents on this or that, or
right.
You know what I mean? Where then what's funny is some of the days where I'm like, well, I'm not gonna like make a video of like the day-to-day life, and I have all this stuff happen that I like want to put in a video.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, shoot, I got to put that in the next days or the next days.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So who knows? You can't plan it all. Some days there's been times when I'm like really glad I was filming. There was this one video I did. I don't know when it was. A couple months ago, where all of a sudden all these fire trucks start going. Oh no, there was like this smoke flowing down the road, and it's like there's a fire outside. And I'm like grabbing my camera and running out. Like I couldn't have planned that, but I'm like the fire trucks, and
that fire truck video was hilarious, by the way.
The kids were all going crazy, and so. And then there's times where half the time my kids are. It's weird because I've heard that you're not supposed to put kids on YouTube,
right?
Like I've heard of people like getting their stuff muted or blocked, and I'm like, shoot, because I put my kids on like almost every video, you know. But so now I'm like nervous of like their friends, because their friends will be like, hey, put me on this video, and I'm like, you better go ask your mom if I'm allowed to put you on, because my kids will be like, hey, anything he films, he's putting it on YouTube,
right? Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I might edit them out, you know.
Yeah. I found my get around on that with youth is I just get their feet.
Their feet?
Yeah, so I just like go around and get their people's feet, because honestly, we don't have permission. We do it for in the building, but we don't have permission for like YouTube for my personal page. So that's what I do is I always get their feet. Like, hey, look, I got your foot. It's on YouTube.
Our students, when they like first come, we make them register basically. And it's one of those huge waivers, you know, and it's like, we're going to take your picture and film you and
600 people. It's not hard.
That's it? 600 people in your town?
Well, it's about 900, they say, but
wow, dude.
Yeah. That's like probably your city block.
Yeah. Like that's like our neighborhood. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, that totally. Yeah. I mean, I totally understand with that vlog part, like, talking to the camera, because there's still times when I stop on my motorcycle to take a photo and like a car drives by and I'm like, what are you looking at? Like, you're like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
But like I've walked into like Walmart now and just recently and like I'll walk in the church now vlogging and people just look at me funny. I'm like, hey, they're looking at me funny. I'll point it out and put it in the video like, hey, they're looking at me funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It just takes, I don't know, time to get used to it.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's a good answer to the question, though. Very good answer.
Sweet. So my last question for you is, well, you kind of started older in youth ministry, right? You didn't start when you were 20 years old?
No. I started, I was about 27-ish, 28.
Okay. So what would you say is the biggest difference between like now as a youth pastor and when you first started?
As I pick up the piece of paper I dropped, I think the biggest difference between when I started and now, like, I think everybody goes through a cycle of this sooner or later, but it was a small town much like this. And I think it was all about me. Like, so everything evolved around what I did and me, myself. So like, if it didn't evolve around me, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not a good way of doing youth ministry.
Yeah.
And so I've learned over time that I've got to hand a lot of things off. And right now, a lot of stuff here is kind of evolving around me, but I'm also handing a lot of stuff off, especially this summer and this fall. Like, nice. I'm handing things off. So it's not just me, because even Jesus sent out the 72 and he sent out the disciples, and it wasn't always designed around him. I mean, it was because he's Christ and he died and he's our savior, but he wanted others to be able to continue on the mission of growing his kingdom.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of forget that whole, like, bring other people in to learn how to do stuff. And I think we fail at that sometimes, especially at younger age, because we don't know our limitations yet. You know,
yeah.
Like 27 years old, I was staying up until 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. and getting up at 4, you know, for work.
Yeah.
Don't recommend that, but that's what I was doing. So
you could have been the lock-in youth pastor every week. You know?
I may have been for a summer. It was not fun.
Nice. What was I going to say? Do you think that's more like when you're young, you're trying to do everything yourself because you're trying to prove yourself, or because you just don't see the value of like getting other people to help?
I think it's twofold. I think part of it is because you know your limitations.
Yeah.
And you know what it's going to take for you to get it done. So you don't know other people's limitations, and you don't know if you can trust them. So that's the first part. I think the second part is honestly, more of it is just not understanding that being a Christian means discipling others into what you are doing.
Yeah.
Bringing others in. I always heard it said, like, you need to be able to do a job to where you can replace yourself with somebody else. That's kind of how I've always approached it. And like the last church I was at, there was a guy, I asked him, hey, you want to be a youth sponsor? He goes, no, I don't think I'd be very good. And then I'm like, well, come and hang out one night and just see. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, well, come and do a game, just whatever game you want to do. I don't care. And I can't even remember the game he did. And he started doing games. And then 6 months later, he's the youth pastor because I got fired and he took over.
Yeah.
It was great. And he's doing a great job. He's been there for 2 years doing an amazing job. But it's one of those things where God puts people in our lives for the potential, but are we giving them that potential, or are we hanging on to it because we know our limitations and we know we can get it done in this amount of time, you know?
Yeah. It's hard to give stuff away sometimes.
It is. It's really hard. And it's hard because we know that it's going to take more time sometimes. Like yesterday, we printed 26 shirts for a VBS program we're doing for junior high schoolers, or junior highers, I guess. And it would have taken me 30 minutes to print those shirts. Yeah. But I had 2 high schoolers help me, and it took me 2 hours. But the 2 hours was well spent because that was giving the teenagers something to do, but it was spending time with the teenagers and discipling alongside them. Yeah. And I think that is more valuable than getting it done in my time. But in a younger Auggie would have got it done as soon as 30 minutes, boom, done, you know, instead of asking for help. So that's kind of how I see that.
Yeah. Plus, if when I was young, if I was gone for a week, it was like, how are we going to function?
Right.
You're doing everything, and if you get sick or you die, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Go on vacation.
Yeah.
The ministry can't function.
It's also taken some of our pride away. Honestly, we take our pride away when we sit there and say, someone else can do this, maybe even better than we can. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's hard for me sometimes, though, because I always think that I'm the best at something, and then someone else does it really, really well, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm just gonna walk away now.
Thanks for all your thoughts. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. This is something I hope to do more with more people, but this is a great start, and thank you for your time and your vlog, because I find it very entertaining. I don't care if anybody else does. I always come in and watch a video, so it's good stuff. Just keep being you. That's all that matters. Just keep being you.
If you're still watching this thing and you made it through that whole conversation, whoa, you are awesome. Mad props. Thanks for hanging with us for so long. But that's all I got for today. Day number 157. Done. Woo! See you tomorrow.